I wanted to talk to you guys about everything surrounding Russell Brand. I have found him fascinating for a long time, wildly charismatic, whip smart, somebody who I have marveled at as a comedian and a fast thinker, and somebody who's so articulate that throughout his career, I've been fascinated by him. And now, as a recovering sex addict, recovering drug addict, he stands accused very credibly, very thoroughly, in a lot of reporting of criminal actions against women that a lot of men are getting accused of these days, and getting the support of the usual subjects of Tucker Carlson and Andrew Tate and Alex Jones, and just a strange phenomenon to see who supports this kind of reporting, this kind of criminality. And without getting into too many of the particulars about what he stands accused of, what I wanted to actually talk to you about was, I remember after 9/11, the horror of the planes hitting the buildings. I remember my local news, my national news. It felt like the anchors were no longer impartial. They were scared and they wanted to attack someone. And I saw on my television objectivity evaporate. And I also saw what had been the newsmen of my time, the Dan Rathers, the Walter Cronkites, the Ted Koppels, whatever the respected newsmen were. Polling showed that the most respected newsman in America was Jon Stewart, became Jon Stewart after 9/11. And as comedians have become our independent thinkers, because everyone thinks government and media are corrupt. The following that Russell Brand has, not unlike Joe Rogan's, makes him a media entity unto himself, and part of his platform is he's just showing you all the time how corrupt the media is. It's part of why he's popular. It's part of why he has an enormous following. It's part of why people will follow him anywhere on conspiracies. And it's part of why those people will now support him as he stands up and says, see, it's a witch hunt. I'm now the victim. Women aren't victims of my crimes. I'm the victim. I told you they were going to come after me. I'm just fascinated by everything happening around this person, and I wanted to explore with you guys, we'll start with Pablo, I suppose, with you guys, the media element of this, the audience grabbing of this, and how it is that these people get so much clout that their following will follow them anywhere.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when Dan brought up 9/11, Mina. I was like, where the are we going? But then he got there. I wanted to state very clearly that when Russell Brand is the subject of an investigative report that involves testimony, credible reporting about 4 women, including one who was just 16 years old, right? Accusing Russell Brand of rape, sexual assault, and abuse, it's not something that is merely interesting because holy there's a lot of real reporting here. I encourage you guys, go to the Times, the London Times, go out and see what the reporting here is. The BBC was involved in this stuff. It's not just like a couple of tweets. And we should say that when it comes to Russell Brand's defense, what Dan is describing him as, this sort of sharp-tongued, British-accented, charismatic leader, it's probably easier if we actually listen and watch what he said.
These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies. And as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
There is what Dan is describing, Mina. I am transparent, I am free, I am a truth teller in an era when you cannot trust the mainstream liars who allege the truth. And this has been, I don't know how much of this was strategized. I'm going to pivot so that I can claim this if these accusations come out. That has been a theory, but it's clearly an effective strategy that he has followed because lots of other people have done it to great monetary success.
Living in a space or cultivating sort of an ideology that's trust nothing, when accusations like this come up, it's a very convenient place to be in.
Conspiracies.
Yeah, right. Like it's if you've already cultivated your fan base to question everything, naturally when these sorts of very credible accusations, again, like his defense is that he had a consensual relationship with a 16-year-old when he was 31. I just want to hit that again.
Yes.
You've already kind of primed the pump, so to speak, right? Like that's kind of what is happening here. I think the first thing I would say is his primary stances as a truth teller are really easy ones to take. Mainstream media and big pharma are bad. That is like literally the easiest thing you can do, right? Like in terms of like things that people are already, and all people, frankly, in society right now around the world have suspicions about. Like that's the elites. You can put the things that
Politicians
these people,
are bad, Mina. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah,
but politicians can't be trusted.
big pharma, really billionaires, and mainstream.
Yeah, but
media.
don't underestimate it as a platform. Donald Trump took out the career I care about. Because there's something to be said for gathering followers, just simply telling people again and again the media is bad.
You're choosing the thing that people already want to believe or already have feelings about. And then what we've seen is people who are unusually charismatic. I think Donald Trump probably falls into this category, good at being on television, or in the case of Brand, and this is what, Dan, you brought up at the beginning, just very hyper-articulate. You combine, so you take these things that people are already suspicious of, that just lots of people, but a certain type of person in particular is already inclined to be suspicious of, and then you take someone who's really good at talking and you combine those two things together, and we shouldn't be surprised that they've developed these like massive fan bases. It's an easy platform combined with a skillful orator. All these people who traffic in this space on the internet, and there's a lot of them, or in podcasting, they're doing it because, this is the hilarious thing about it. They're making a ton of money off of it. Like,
no question.
They have recognized the most lucrative possible space. This is their, like, the equivalent of big pharma finding the drug and then like pricing it up. And a very willing audience. So we shouldn't be surprised by any of it, or surprised by the fact that, like, it seems to be one of the most lucrative spaces in independent media or entertainment right now.
It's about the internet, right? Like, so much of this is about the rise of the internet and what has been called the democratization of media, which has resulted in authoritarian impulses, of course, as we've alluded to with Trump and all that. But to me, it's about, okay, now you have the ability to get what you want to hear from anywhere, and the media as an entity has such a losing hand. Because two things are true. On the one hand, yes, it is totally bad that elites have determined the flow of information when you say that in that way. What's less bad is when you have people who have devoted their lives to professional standards and ethical introspection and accountability, who may fail a lot, right? But they're still trying to hold themselves to a rigorous standard, and in fact can be shamed. They can be shamed. Shame being the guardrail on all of this. I always return to this because reading and listening to Russell Brand talk about his relationships reminds me of the immunity that so many of these people also have to conventional shame. And conventional shame, again, I get why. It's an outdated concept. It feels musty. But it's also a guardrail in a world without them. And so the media is like a goalkeeper that can't allow a single goal. Otherwise, they get to be criticized by the fan who's like, I could do that. But in this case, you actually get to get podcasts. It occurs to me also that part of what Dan is nostalgic for, that I am too, despite being that much younger, is, I don't know, the era of a guy in a suit and tie who has a newsroom behind him telling you, we've thought really deeply about these stories. We've investigated them, we've reported them, and he has a very sonorous voice. And he brings you this news. And now, for better and for worse, the guy giving you the news media can be dressed like Dan. And that's a little dangerous.
Well, I think it's like it's not that people like you can draw the line from Jon Stewart to getting to Russell Brand or whatever, that all these people are trusted or credible or whatever. It's just what Pablo is saying, which is that everything now is kind of algorithmic, right? Like we're not being fed something that's curated with standards, with you got to have this, there's accountability. That's all gone. You're being fed what you want. And what a lot of people want is slop. Or they want to be made to feel like smarter or like they're seeing through things or whatever. I mean, you just look at everything. This is the point I was trying to kind of make about like when I was saying like he's attacking big pharma and mainstream media. It's like the easiest thing you can do. That's what people want. That's what the algorithms all reward what we want. They reward hate. They reward conflict and dissent. And so I think this is not a figurehead problem so much as it is a distribution one. The pipes have changed and the pipes are giving us slop, and that's how you end up in this place. There's always been bad faith actors and people and hucksters, but they've never had the kind of distribution that they have now.
By the way, youtube.com/Pablo Torre finds out.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the same thing right now. I'm like, how do we get jumped on this algorithm to like get these views up?
Dan,
He's doing it for you, Violet. Only for you. Pablo Torre funds out.